Okay guys, so I'm going to show you all how to do this quick effect in Premiere Pro, wherein I have a video that will it eventually starts getting blurred, and then I've gotten all of these Polaroid images and pictures that actually start popping in throughout the entire sequence, right? So I've got a total of 4 Polaroids that pop in, and let's see how we actually go and create it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm turning off the visibility of the image layer and also of the adjustment layer. Right, so this is my original video. So essentially what we've got to do is, first of all, we add in an adjustment layer over here, and the adjustment layer essentially starts after like a few frames it goes ahead and it starts getting blurred entirely. So that's pretty simple to do. The big point we're going to be talking about is creating a Polaroid image sequence as a nest. Right, so you can see over here I've gotten my Polaroid image sequence as a nest. Within it I've gotten 4 other nested sequences as well. Now each of these, you don't really have to create all 4. This depends on how many videos you actually have, how many pictures that you actually have. But essentially you can create one and just copy and paste them in like your project tab. So let's go through creating one of them. So over here, essentially what I've got is so this is my Polaroid nested sequence, my very first nested sequence, and then I would duplicate this multiple times depending on the number of pictures that I want to be popping into my final sequence. So over here I've essentially got 3 layers. I've just left video 1 layer blank for no particular reason at all. Video number 2 is where I've gotten my final picture. Adjustment layer is the most important layer because this is the one that maintains this crop right in the center of the frame. And video number 4 is essentially my text layer, right? So if I were to turn off my text layer, you notice at the bottom it says going for gold. If I were to turn off the visibility, you notice it's gone off. It's actually in a gray text. The reason why it's not very visible over here is because it's like a black background. Actually, it's sort of like a transparent background, but anyway, if you notice in the actual Polaroid, we'll be having an entire white background. Right, and this entire sequence would be appearing on top of that white background, so that's why the text will be a lot clearer in the final image that we actually see. But I'm going to spend some time and talk about this first and the second layers which you have over here. So essentially, if I turn off the visibility of this adjustment layer, so you'll see this is my original picture which I've got. Now the problem that I notice is if I were to create a mask on this photo itself, and if I were to then move the photo left, right, up, down, that mask will shift on as well. Right, so let me just show you what I mean. I'm adding in like one opacity mask. I've gotten that picture selected. I've clicked on the mask tool, and okay, so this is sort of like my mask. Now the problem is if I were to duplicate this entire sequence and I just wanted to like update my picture, notice what happens to my mask, right? So if in say like my new nested sequence, which is a duplication of this one, and then I've replaced this photo with a new one, if I were to shift the photo left, right, up, down, you notice that the entire mask would shift as well, and that's not what really I would want. I want my mask to always stay consistent in the center, and I want to have the ability of shifting the picture wherever I want. I want to be able to scale in the photo or scale down the photo without really affecting the size of the mask. So I'm just going to undo what I've done over here. So that's why we create this adjustment layer. Okay, so the most important layer that we actually have is the second layer, which is the adjustment layer. So what I've done, I've just added in like an adjustment layer over here, and I created a mask. So you see this is my actual mask, right? And I've inverted it. So inversion, basically what that does is that whatever's within this square which I created is going to be visible, right? If I had unchecked the inversion, everything opposite would be true, right? So everything within the square would have been taken out, right, masked out. But I want this inversion to remain constant. Yeah. The next important thing is I've added in a crop. So what the crop does is essentially it's cropping out everything so that the inversion of my mask remains. So you take off everything and you add in your mask. That's essentially the most important point which you actually need over here in this adjustment layer. Later on, when you go to the project panel, you can then duplicate your Polaroid sequence as many times as you really wanted. So over here, I've gotten my my project panel. And essentially what you can see is that one sequence, I've duplicated it multiple times depending on the number of photos that I really require. So for each of the photos that I've got, I just replace my last layer, which is the actual image, right? My adjustment layer stays constant, right? So this is the exact same size as in all of the other Polaroid image sequences as well, right? So all I need to do is like turn this one on and off, right? Replace that background. So you see this is what it initially was, and it's been replaced over here. Now when I go back to my main nested sequence, I simply drag and drop each of my Polaroid sequences over here. I add in a graphics layer below that. What I've done is, so the graphic layer is essentially a big white block that I've actually got added in. On top of that, I'm layering each Polaroid. Now what I do is, for both of these, I've added in sort of a rotation and a scaling factor, a height factor as well. You can zoom into the timeline over here, and you can see that as the image slowly comes forth, right? So I've kept the exact same settings in terms of position, height, width, and rotation for both my Polaroid and as well as my graphic layer. Now if I were to go in, you'll notice how it just flows in, and I've, like I said, I've changed the rotational axis. Yep, that's right. So I've added in sort of a rotational element over here. I've added in sort of a scaling element as well. Right, I've changed the positioning of it as well, and so on. And that's the same thing which I've done for like all of them. Cool. So I've added in all of those, and we are pretty much done. This is the main sequence, which we then drop into our main sequence, on top of my blurry adjustment layer. And what's happening is, from a good looking video, it starts getting a bit blurred. It starts getting a little bit blurred, and then it starts popping in really, really, really nicely. So that's the first picture, then you've got the second picture, the third picture, and so on. As many photos as you would want. And then I just simply faded them all out.